Alright, so really quick, just a janky tutorial about how to make a pseudo-rigged keyboard thing. Not actually using any rigging, but basically what you want to do is just select all of your objects. I'm going to go ahead and do a modify center pivot on these because I was like doing some weird stuff to them. And you just want to go ahead and set the pivot to somewhere that you want to use basically for all the objects. So in this case, I'm just vertex snapping it to like the very back of the object. I feel like on most keyboards you'd actually get like, it would be pivot like somewhere behind here. But basically this should give you something where, it rotates like from the back of the key. And then once you do that, you just want to go through and say, okay, what's the max depth I want this thing rotated? And in this thing, I'm going to say that maybe like 4 degrees actually sounds pretty reasonable. Anything more than that, and it's going to just be broken. That's 4 on the Z, and then anything out above, obviously you don't want. You pretty much just lock the rest of the values. But what we're going to come in and do is hop into, I believe, the shape this? Or no, sorry, it's just the normal poly surface whatever node. So not the shape node, the other one that pops up. And you can go in and add limits to all of this stuff. So if you add a limit, you can add a limit on the top and bottom, and you can say the max rotation of 4 degrees and no negative rotation. So what that should basically look like is now when you try to rotate this, it will only rotate in this area over here. And basically you would just have to go through and do that for all the rest of these. The downside of this is I think it's going to make you do this all at once. I think it's going to make you do it on like an individual key basis because these are all labeled different things, which like frankly kind of sucks. But the nice thing is, like, once you set this up, it should be very straightforward to sort of go through and just do all of the, key rotations. And you'll never need to really worry about them going, like, too far or, like, not enough or anything like that. I'm sure there's also definitely ways to script doing this, so you don't need to manually enter 50 bajillion keys. And I also think that probably, I'm going to take a wild guess here, because I could be entirely wrong, that if I were to do something like duplicate this object, it probably would keep those values on it. So what I would actually do, for the sake of expediency, is model a key once, and then just duplicate that a bajillion and a half times. So, with that in mind, now if we go ahead, oops, hello, if, what did I do? Hid the object. So now I'm just gonna go through and like maybe this obviously looks really insane because I didn't model this well, so it seems like 4 degrees is I'm gonna say still fine for this one. Whatever. Cool. So I'm gonna go in and just be like boom, no, and then boom. 4 degrees, yes. And stop rotating the object like a crazy person and just duplicate this. 1, 2, 3. Not even close to being even, but whatever. But now we still have those locks on all of them, and we should be able to press multiple keys down or up if we want to. And then the other thing, since I only want this doing anything on the negative Z, or rotate Z, I'm going to come in and I'm just going to lock all of these values by right-clicking on them, so that I now no longer have the option to rotate it. Pretty much anytime I rotate this, it locks it into this position here. So this is sort of the basis of what I'm doing, and honestly, if you wanted to, you could leave it at this. And just sort of call that a day. Now, let's assume maybe you wanted to get a little fancy and like make some kind of controller or something for this. So what I'm going to do is just plop in a little random NURBS curve, and you could do whatever shape you want for this. This is not a good representation of, anything. So personally, like I said, I think it's easier to probably just key each individual key, rather than set up this next part. But what you could theoretically do is come in and add some custom attributes to this. Now I have a video going over this somewhere. It's in a robot rigging video. But basically, if you come up to here and edit add attribute, you just have to do this like 50 times, which I don't like. So I'm just gonna be really lazy and label this white one. So you do want this to be a float, with there's like few different ways to do this. The easiest and kind of most pointless way to do this, since you have easy clickability of these keys, is to do a minimum of 0 and a maximum of 4, basically the values that match your rotation, and go ahead and add that. And that'll give you this little key, which then you can scale from 1 to 4, which is not really, like I said, gonna do anything. Gotta hook up some other stuff for that. The other thing you could do is something a little, so I'll show you sort of like two versions of this. So this is 0 to 1, which isn't going to quite map correctly onto our keys. And you could basically just, you'd have to do this for all the keys, which is why I'm like, alright, so let's actually hook up one of these for fun. So if we go into Windows, General Editors, Connection Editor, it'll pop up this thing, and you want to make sure, so this is the driver object. It's taking the attribute from this and mapping it into, from this, and into whatever this is. So I'm going to grab this, make sure this is loaded on the left, I'll say this is key 1, and load this on the right. And we just scroll all the way down till you find your little button dudes, and then on here, you gotta, and you just click on that, and you gotta go in, find your rotate, and find your rotate Z, and then you just click on that, they should be mapped up. You'll see that rotate Z is now attached to a thing, and now if I were to control this little thing, we get that rotation there. You are now unable to control it on the key itself. It is only controlled through this attribute here, which again, you would have to then set up for all of the keys. The nice thing, at least, about this is if you click on the other objects, it'll sort of keep your rotation sort of easier to find, so you don't need to like scroll through all this crap again. Okay, other option is a little fancier, and again, I don't really see a point to doing this, to be perfectly honest. For something, this is like a very basic sort of thing. But this is kind of overkill in my opinion. But if you go up to your animation menu, somewhere in here, there's a set driven key menu. We're gonna just hop in, I believe it's just, yeah, the set menu is gonna pull up this little thing. And basically the driver is the same thing. It's gonna be what's controlling the object. So we're gonna load the NURB circle, and then call this our driven. So load driven. Only thing I can rotate is rotate Z, so we're going to click on that, and we're going to click on the button we want to mess with. And for this, you need to make sure that the values are set correctly. So at a value of 0, the key is not pressed, so that's good. We're going to go ahead and key that, and then you have to manually change these. So at a value of 1, this key is going to come down to 4, and then you just have to key that again. So basically what this is saying is it's mapping the 1 or 0 to 4 rotation to a value of 0 to 1. So now if we scrub through this, you still get the same control of the keyboard, it's just with like lots of extra button clicks. But if you are a fan of the 0 to 1 value, then that is, you know, maybe the option that you want to take. In this case, I actually like 4 because it's a little bit easier to scrub through this. You get a little bit finer control over it. Like it was slightly harder to scrub through this, but anywho. So basically you could just do that for all the keyboards, or like I said, I would just click each one personally individually and just rotate that manually because I think that's way easier. Hopefully that was helpful.